Hi everyone, it's Marissa from BumblebeeApothecary.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make healthy homemade barbecue sauce that is delicious. So one really quick tip that I will share with you right off the bat before we jump into the recipe is that if you have my homemade ketchup recipe, that makes a really fast option if you're cooking a piece of meat and you want something like barbecue sauce on it. So if you already have that on hand, then that's great. But oftentimes you want a more complex, real true barbecue sauce flavor, whether to dip things in or to put on something that you're cooking. So this recipe is perfect. It skips all the chemicals and junk that are in store-bought barbecue sauces, and it is approved for the GAPS diet. So let's jump in and get started. I'm starting off here with about a cup of tomato paste. If you can find the organic tomato paste in glass jars, that's ideal. I have 2 of those size containers in my little mixing pitcher here. And also, I should add, the recipe that I'm using today is based off of the one in this Heal Your Gut cookbook. It is based on it, but I do change a few things. First thing that I'm going to add is 1 onion. I'm going to finely mince this and add it. The next thing that I'm going to add is 2 garlic cloves. So I'm going to peel those and then put them through my garlic press and add that. Next, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of honey, and you guys know how I don't really like to measure honey, so I'm just going to eyeball that 1/4 cup. I always feel like you make a mess and you waste honey when you measure it, so I just eyeball it. Next, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of raw apple cider vinegar. Next, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, nice high quality mineral salt, Baja Gold or Celtic sea salt. Next, 1 teaspoon of paprika. 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder. 1 teaspoon of mustard. This can either be dry mustard powder or some already prepared mustard, is what I'm doing, so just eyeballing a teaspoon. If you're on GAPS, you do want to make sure that you have a mustard that is approved for GAPS. It's usually pretty easy to find an organic, all-natural kind that is. And then just a pinch of cayenne powder. Of course, if you're somebody who likes pretty spicy barbecue sauce, you could do more, but if you have kids, and especially if you're on the earlier side of GAPS, you want to be careful about anything that could be too irritating or too spicy. Now we're just going to mix everything together really well, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to talk about your options for the next steps here. Now, one option is that you can add some probiotic liquid. So this would be 2 tablespoons of sauerkraut brine or pickle brine or whey that you've strained from homemade yogurt or kefir, and you would mix that probiotic liquid in, put this into your storage jar, and let it sit on the counter for 2 days before moving to the refrigerator. And then after that, you can use it either as a topping for something or a dip. The other way that you can go with this, one of the other ways, is that you can put it into a small pan on your stove. You probably will want to add a little bit of water just to thin it out so that it doesn't get too thick or burn on the stove. And then you can let all those flavors simmer and meld together, and then you can use it as your dip or your topping that way. Or you can simmer it on the stove for a while, or you can skip the simmering. And if you have a cut of meat in the oven that you've been slow roasting for most of the day. Then you can take this barbecue sauce and coat it over the top of that meat. Maybe it's some pork ribs or something like that, or beef ribs. And then you can let it finish up for another 45 minutes or so, depending on how long it needs. And then the onions can caramelize and the whole thing can kind of cook together and meld those flavors that way. So a few different ways to use this, but whichever way you go, really delicious. I like storing it in a pint-sized mason jar. So there you go, just takes a little bit of mixing, chopping up that onion, pressing the garlic, and you have a beautiful, healthy, homemade barbecue sauce that is delicious on so many different kinds of meat. Hope that you enjoy this recipe. Check out that description box for links to where I like to buy a lot of the ingredients for this, as well as a link to this cookbook that inspired this recipe. Also check out that description box for links to free ebooks and other goodies. I have a free GAPS Diet Getting Started guide and a free class on how to start the GAPS diet with less confusion and more confidence. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody else who you think might like a healthy barbecue sauce recipe. And if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out 2 new videos every week on nourishing recipes and natural living. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.